Friends, as we gather here in this sanctuary and online, it is a privilege and a joy to worship and serve with you. Now, this is true every time we come together as a community of faith. But I'm going to tell you, today feels a little sweeter. At the 2025 session of the Arkansas Annual Conference this past week, I was fully ordained a deacon in full connection here in the United Methodist Church. And y'all, this week was a gift. To be there with Pastor Daniel, with our families, with delegates from our church, to be there with my ordination class and representatives of all of the other churches in our annual conference. It was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. And when I struggle to find words today, I'm going to ask for your grace in that because I'm still processing. What I want you to know is this entire journey I am blown away by. I'm amazed, and though the words fall infinitely short of what I need to tell you, I can only say how thankful I am for you and for the ways that you have encouraged me, the role that you have played in this journey. Now, in the United Methodist Church, we believe that all Christians are called by God to ministry. This is stated most clearly and concisely in paragraphs 126 through 132 of our Book of Discipline, a section which is entitled, "The Ministry of All Christians." In its opening paragraph, we read, "All Christians are called through their baptism to this ministry of servanthood in the world to the glory of God and for human fulfillment." Now, each one of us is called to this ministry as individuals and as a community. And this is both a gift and a task. Now, from that general call, we also believe that individuals may be called to a particular lifetime of ordained ministry as an elder or as a deacon. In the United Methodist Church, elders, such as Pastor Daniel, are ordained to a lifetime ministry of word, sacrament, service, and order. Deacons, such as myself, we are ordained to a lifetime ministry of word, service, compassion, and justice. And the beauty of it is that in the United Methodist Church, these ministries are meant to be complementary, empowering one another and empowering the whole church for our ministry together in the world around us. Now, back in February, not long after I was approved for ordination by the Board of Ordained Ministry of our Arkansas Annual Conference, Pastor Daniel asked me to begin preparing to share some of my call story. And as the months went on, we discerned this as part of our journey through the Gospel of Matthew. We read earlier about Jesus' call of Simon, Andrew, James, and John. And I want to bring us back to the gospel after I share some of my story. But before I do that, I must offer first some necessary caveats. Number one, I'm not going to tell you about a single specific event. I'm also not going to go into great detail about any event, any story. The accident that almost ended my life in early adolescence, The way that I met and fell in love with my wife, or the ways that I am still falling in love with her. Or the combination of circumstances that God used to call us both into the season of discernment that we now refer to as our spiritual nomad years. We'll save stories and detailed recollections for another day, perhaps if you'd like, over a cup of hot tea. Instead, today I'm going to tell you about the people, because they are the ones through whom I have both experienced my call and had it affirmed. Number 2, given the time constraints of a homily within a worship service, I am not going to name everyone. To do so would keep us here all week long, and we know that the lunch hour cometh. If you hear part of our shared journey together as I tell my story today, you'll know. And if you don't hear your part of the journey we've shared, know that I am thankful for you. I would not be here today without you. Now, I do have a third caveat as well, but we'll save that one for a little further down the road. So for now, let me tell you about the people. I have to begin by talking about my mom, my dad, and my sister. They have each been a constant source of inspiration to me. They have taught me deep and consistent love. They've been with me every step of the journey, and they still teach me and inspire me every day. And I need to tell you about my grandparents. Papa and Granny, well, for most of my life growing up, I lived across the road from them. We moved into that house when I was 6 years old. Every day that we were not in school, my sister and I were having cornbread, lunch with Papa and Granny. And my Nana, she lived 10 minutes away on the other side of town. And I was blessed with the gift of years of deep conversations with the three of them, listening to and learning from their stories. Then there were this high school junior and senior who saw this awkward 7th grade kid. And friends, if you think I'm awkward now, oh, you should have seen me before I learned to control it. Something else. But they saw this awkward kid and they saw potential. And they invited me to lead worship with them. And they trained me to take over the leadership of our youth worship team after they both graduated. As a freshman in high school, when I was dealing with some deep anger, I had a friend who had the courage to ask me what was going on. And I shared with him, that I was angry. I was still wrestling with anger about the accident that had changed everything for me a few years earlier. And when I did, he had the wisdom to encourage me to approach it instead from a perspective of gratitude. You see, it was true that the accident, the injury, had restricted me from activities that I had loved as a child. In fact, things that I would never be able to do that way again. But I was still here. I had woken up from the coma and I was able to come back. And there were 2 Sunday school teachers who went on to be my mentors long after I was in their class. You see, this couple, they were friends to our family. And I remember how they cared for both my sister and me throughout our journeys. They showed us hospitality. full welcome, compassion, and encouragement. Then, my first semester at university, I met this girl. And we've journeyed together every step of the way since. She continues to inspire me, to make me laugh, to call me on my stuff. Maybe the better way to say that. To call me on my stuff, to explore the hard questions together, and to grow with me in our understanding of who we are and who we are becoming. There was a teacher during my undergraduate years who invited me into a world of wonder and learning. I took the class because I had to. My degree plan said I had to get 2 foreign language credits to graduate. But I was absolutely dreading it because of the experience I had had in high school. And then, during the summer break between semester 1 and semester 2, as I was doing some independent review, I found not just that I understood, but that I was having fun. You see, this teacher modeled curiosity and growth. And so instead of just getting my required credits and getting out, I took every Latin course available to me at university. And a few years later, there was a high school principal who called me in for an interview the Thursday before classes started. The school needed, of all things, a Latin teacher. And guys, though I had had no classes in academic theory or practice, they were willing to give me a chance. There was this group of students, high school students. Now, our awkward natures resonated with one another. And they found my classroom to be a home for them during their high school journey. Even if they weren't in one of the classes, if they weren't taking my class, they knew they were welcome to come by for a cup of tea, conversation, or even just to be able to sit down at a desk and have a place to process what was going on in their lives. My classroom was always open during lunchtime. It was always filled. And I will tell you that these students taught me as much, although I believe far more than I ever could have taught them. They taught me how to listen and how to care for those entrusted to me. There was one student who struggled in my classes. Now, while he was not the only one to do so, this was a particularly singular case. We went round and round for 2 years, working through his frustrations and his heartache, his anxiety, as he was struggling and trying to understand everything that was going on, everything that was contained within the subject matter. He taught me how to find new roads as a teacher, although being fully honest with you, I didn't think it made that much of a difference because we kept going round and round and round until a few years later, when I was invited back to his campus as a guest instructor. This young man stopped me in the foyer, gave me a hug, said that he missed me and he missed my class. Though he had struggled, he knew he was loved and he was supported. And that had made all the difference in the world. He, along with so many other students, taught me. And they gave me the courage to continue growing into God's call on my life. I'm here because of a little boy. He's 5 years old now. But from the first moment I held him, he began teaching me about God's love for us. I am so thankful that I get to be his dad. And I want to be part of shepherding the church, of serving with the church and with the community to build a better world for him and for his friends. I'm here because of my seminary classmates and professors from all walks of life and all lived experiences. The professor who told me the story about the first generation of students and professors at St. Paul's School of Theology, who did their coursework together, then went out at night to stand together in the gap between police and peaceful civil rights protesters. I'm here because of classmates and friends who are LGBTQIA plus children of God. And they were enrolled in seminary. They were taking classes. They were sharing their experiences and their understanding of who God is and of who God was inviting them to become, of who they are becoming. They were faithfully following God's call on their lives, working toward ordained ministry, even at a time before they were allowed to do so within the United Methodist Church that they had found there to be their home. The classmates, my friends, who experienced deep faith crises and even failures in ministry, yet they were still being grown in grace and in wisdom to fulfill God's developing call on their lives. The professors who modeled for us the love of God, expanding our view of God, expanding my view of God, and embodying the ministry of reconciliation and renewal. I'm here because of a group of friends who, even as I have had the privilege to be one of your pastors, you've given me grace. They've given me grace to grow with them, to share life authentically, to wear my cap backwards, to laugh, and to simply be. Now, all of these stories have been good, formative examples. But that leads us to caveat number 3. It has not all been a bed of roses. All those things which form us, not all of them are good. And not all of them are easy. I experienced my call to ordination for compassion and justice through times that I saw people oppressed and silenced just for being who they are. I'm here today because of the times that I have seen the faith weaponized against others. And even for times when, as a much younger person, I participated in such oppression without understanding or realization. I'm here because of the voices which have manipulated and misused the Bible and the holy name of God for their own social or political benefit. Now, while I alone cannot fix this, I cannot walk away from it, and I cannot ignore it. You see, my call to ordained ministry of word, service, compassion, and justice has been shaped through understanding the ways that the church has hurt me, the ways that the church has hurt people I love, and the understanding that God calls us all to experience full salvation, the healing through which we are made whole and we are made holy. My call to ordination is affirmed by the fact that, recognizing how we as the church have gotten it wrong in the past, God is still calling us to be better together for the sake of the world around us. Now, as we look back on our lives, how many of us can say that it all went exactly according to plan? I will tell you, mine has not. In fact, the vast majority of what I have experienced was never on my radar during high school or university. But I can also tell you this journey has been far better, far more life-giving than anything I could have dreamed up on my own. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, he taught an Ubuntu theology of reconciliation. Ubuntu is a word that means I am because we are. I am because we are. And this is a more communal understanding of identity and formation. But I'm going to go out. I believe that this is how God works most commonly. God calls us to God's self through one another. We hear about Jesus' call of the disciples in Matthew. But I want to invite you to also think about the account that we have in John chapter 1, verses 43 through 51. Jesus tells Philip to follow him, and Philip goes to find Nathanael. Philip says to Nathanael, "We've found the one that Moses wrote about in the Torah and also the prophets. Come and see." And as you follow the story of the early church, this traditional invitation to come and see has been passed down through the centuries and continues even through us today. You see, we never know who God will use to help us better see and understand who God is. And we never know when God will use another person to call us into the responsive, relational work of ministry. And we never know when God will use us to extend that opportunity, that invitation to someone else. Our interactions may seem simple, even trivial. Yet, you may be the person who sees the awkward kid and sees potential in them. You may be the one who makes space for someone to authentically be and to grow into their own understanding of who God is and who God is inviting them to become. So friends, do not underestimate the simple, the trivial, or the ordinary. Instead, as you experience God's liberation and abundant life, share it with others. Live in relationship to them in such a way that your life is the invitation to come and see. Because God is calling you to a ministry of servanthood in your unique story. And God is calling you through and alongside those with whom God allows you to share the road, so that all may experience the freedom and wholeness that God desires for all of creation. In the name of God who is Savior and Spirit, amen.